Welcome to Orchestrated Gratitude. Sharing appreciation and gratitude is a hallmark trait of the Orchestrated Connecting community. I'm the Gratitude Junkie, Chris Palmore, the founder of GratitudeSpace.com, and with my co-host, the Conductor of Connectors, David Homan, we bring you a weekly series dedicated to sharing gratitude towards the friends made through these orchestrated connections. This is Orchestrated Gratitude. Welcome to the fourth installment of Orchestrated Gratitude. I'm one of the hosts, Chris Palmore. I've got my co-host, David Homan, right here. Hey, David, how's it going, man?
Doing good, Chris. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm glad we could do this again. You know, I didn't get my David fill last week, but I'm going to get a little extra this week.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to getting my fill of our conversation as well.
Likewise, David. Well, we've got a pretty big, you said it's how to be or become the conversation. So would you like to share about how that works in the gratitude realm?
Absolutely. So let me walk you through the 4 steps of this, which I've studied from understanding how hundreds of the connectors and friends in my group work. And, the idea always is, to give people a sense of where gratitude fits into each part of this. So everyone who's successful talks about why they're successful, how they got there. When they're that successful, they are the conversation. So what I've looked at is how you map out how to get there. So I'm just going to run through this real quick, right? But the first step is making a connection. You make a connection, you have a conversation, you're either introduced or you're there. Unless you express gratitude to somebody for why they value to you and why this connection is valuable, both for the connection made, but also why you enjoyed connecting with that person as a follow-up, the connection goes nowhere. But you have to have greater insight than this. So that next step after making the connection is how to elevate somebody's perception of you, of what you're doing. And that's where you have to have insight. You can't just lean in with an intro. You have to be able to add value to what that person is doing. And at that point, when you add value, you go from being somebody on the periphery who's been introduced to somebody who's part of the conversation. And that insight that people get about your value comes with understanding where your gratitude led you to lean in, and where you leaned in, it started to amplify what they're doing. Now, the tricky part, and this is the last part of this, is how you become the conversation. And you become the conversation simply when the values that you give to the world, people want to amplify with you, as opposed to you just needing to amplify somebody else's values. And this is where understanding how you fit in to communities, to interactions and conversations is key, because most people see how they want to fit, and you really need to see how other people see you fitting
in. That's a lot. There's a lot to digest there, David.
Well, I think in the end, it's about being present. I know you've had a lot of thought about that and about what it really takes to give somebody focus. So why don't you give some perception for the listeners just on that, and then I can add to it.
For sure. Yeah. One of the most important things about being grateful, and we talked about this before, it's like, gratitude, it lives in your memory. And the only way that you are having a memory is if you're present. So all those times when you're sitting with somebody and say you're looking at a social media, playing with your phone, whatever that means, or you're thinking about, I got to get home and I've got this, and this to do. You got a list to do, or you're thinking about I didn't do yesterday or whatever. You're technically not even there. Your memory, you have no memory of being there with that person. You're just, because you're other places, you're worrying about the future or the past or whatever that is. And I think that, if you want to one day become the conversation, like you said, which I think is a noble thing, you're going to have to be present when you're with people. And speaking to your steps, if you're not present, when you do follow up, you're not going to have those key points to go, well, I really enjoyed this, right? Because obviously, if you want to reconnect with somebody, you're going to want to say something that allows the person to know you were listening, right? Like,
Correct.
I did actually connect with something you said. If it's maybe you guys both have kids, or you like the same band, or I don't know whatever it is, right? They told a little antidote that kind of like, perked you up, or something you're not going to forget. Like yesterday, I was working with this really great lady named Sarah, and she was messaging with her son. She's like, "Oh, I'm just a big dork," and because she was like giddy about it, right? But I loved it. I said, "No, you're just a mom." She's like, "Yeah, but I'm a dork." And I said, hey, "Okay, you're a dorky mom." You know what I mean? But I mean, it was just a really cute thing that said a lot about her, and I like her, and I was just like, well, there she is, excited about talking about her kids. But that's because I was there and actually being present to hear her say that. And I was watching videos recently from years ago. And it's funny when I have so many videos, which is great, right? It's like my digital scrapbook goes back 6 years and tens of hours. But the gentleman, which I didn't even remember he said that, he just, after I met him, because I asked him, would you like to do a gratitude video? He said he was grateful for me. And like I said, I had no memory of this because we're talking about 5-6 years ago, David. But he said that I'm just grateful for you because, I met you and you were here with me and you weren't playing with your phone. I could tell that you were, he's basically, thank you for being here with me. And I think that that's what we want when we're sitting next to people. We're there to connect, or we're not, right? So if you're there to connect and when you see somebody else isn't, we take note of it. I do all the time, right? We just take note that I'm here and you're not here.
And so the thing I'd add to that, because it's a really apt point, Chris, is, people think to have a focused conversation, you have to keep your eye on the prize, right? If we're having a conversation and part of that is where it could benefit me and my focus, my eye is on how it's going to benefit me, then I miss the nuances of what actually might be interesting for you to talk about. I once bonded with a potential investor for a couple friend of mine startups because we both love Toyota Siennas and we think they're the best minivan on the planet. And he had just bought one and I want one. I still want one. And that was what I picked up on from his conversation. And we're still friends to this day because I wasn't focused on him investing in things. I was focused on his personal investment, which was the most awesome minivan.
I love that. And I was part of the interview this last week, and it's like, if you can just show up with people just being curious and excited, you're going to hear those things like the minivan. You know what I mean? Like, again, obviously maybe you have an idea where you want it to go, but it's being flexible and curious, because you never know where a conversation is going to go. You never know what ideas are going to come up, who they're going to mention, or what's really going to connect you. Because it could be something entirely different. Like you said, it could be a minivan. And then that's your pivot point that continues the relationship to wherever it is now.
And we all have whole lives. We can wear different hats, but it's a hat. It's not the definitive reason why you're meeting somebody or engaging with them. And therefore, when you're trying to become part of a community, part of a team, make yourself part of that conversation, you have to get out of your own head and you have to be willing to really listen, deeply listen, in order to understand what people are really saying or what they're asking for.
Right. Back to, just being present and being curious. That's, going in with that solid, like that destination, like the destination is here, it has to go. Like just being flexible, like you said, like you should, I don't know, with people, we shouldn't be so, because we can't control other people, and I don't want to. We got to be flexible. We got to be flexible in whatever we're showing up doing, anything, and that's why I said that I really feel like it's the curiosity of the, just showing up and seeing where things are going to go and just being flexible it allows new relationships to just organically happen, and not, because again, we all know when someone tries to force something, like you said, if they overshoot the ratio, which is something we're going to talk about in another podcast, that's where that would definitely fall into place.
So let me give you this final thought, right? And this is just my vulnerabilities, which are, if you become really, really adept at having conversations and you talk to people a lot, you have to make them real and live for you every time. So you can look for the people who pick up on those nuances, those ideas of where they can actually add to your conversation as opposed to just want something from you. So I always lead with 3 vulnerabilities, things that happen in my day, things I want, things that are coming up. And usually one of them lands, and then a real deeper relationship can build from that.
That's great, man. That reminds me one other story I want to tell real shortly. I remember I met with 3 new people, and we sat down, and I just asked them, in this moment, what are you grateful for? And it was just, because it was such a blanket question, like their answer said so much about their passion and who they were in such a short amount of time. It allowed me to really know what was important to them. just from having that type of question where it got to that vulnerability, like you're saying, but it was just, I knew who they were because of what they said. It was so simple. Like one was like, no, you know, in a sense, like this person's a teacher, they love to teach. You know, this person's an artist, they love to create. You know, like, but when people share their passion in the statement of gratitude, it's very easy to connect.
It is, and it gives people the courage to open up just enough to have a conversation that goes both ways.
Exactly. I think that's a beautiful place to close up, man. Awesome.
Great.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome, Dave. Well, I'm Chris with Davis. They have a lot to be grateful for, and we'll be seeing you next Friday. Have a wonderful weekend.